Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Welcome to another weekly Quran study of Always Receiving Nur. We are continuing to journey in Surah Ra'd, Surah 13 in the Quran. Last week we had our monthly teleconference on Satan and the Quran, which was very insightful. And now we got back to our Surah Ra'd, and we will continue to discuss from verse 35 onwards. What I will do now is to start with our homework, which was also announced in today's email, to take a moment to reflect on verse 35. I will go ahead and read the translation and then turn the microphone to you regarding our homework question. Why is it that suffering in the life to come is more than here? So let's read the verse. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. The translation goes as follows. The parable of the paradise promised to those who are conscious of God is that of a garden through which running waters flow.
Isra?
Yes.
Is this the assignment where you're supposed to be reading?
Yeah.
It's ayah 34.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, thank you. Yeah, that's true. Sorry. Verse 34 reads as follows. For such there is suffering in the life of this world, but truly their suffering in the life to come will be harder still, and they will have none to shield them from God. So I would like to invite you to comment on why do you think the verse is highlighting a suffering that's even more intense in the life to come. Why does it get intense, more intense? Anyone?
Der was a teleconference between them, right?
Yes.
But you can still think about it and reflect about it right now, inshallah. Even if you haven't done it.
Assalamualaikum. I just have a short comment. Do we have to give the answer from Surah Ra'd itself or from other parts of Quran as well? Hello, Assalamualaikum. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Yes. I was maybe expecting Yamina to answer, but yeah, I think it's open.
I see. From the whole of the Quran. So
I actually would think that. I mean, if I read a verse, then I would try to stay with that verse. But of course, I mean, in total, there is the whole Quran. I mean, so that I would, for example, go to the verse before that, or the 3 verses before that.
Good idea. Yeah.
And then having all the rest of Quran in mind as much as I have it in mind, right? I mean, you probably have that.
Discussing in the past that basically it comes down to intention and choice of free will, which they do not use it. And this is the only time, only once in a lifetime they will be given this chance to choose, and not after they die. because and if their intention after seeing all the ayats and all the the speech of Allah verifying all the ayats and the prophets specifying, plus they ignore the punishment of the previous generations, they know what happened from the history, and after ignoring all that and they choose this, then this leads to a permanent kind of a situation. It's not a small, it's not a small thing that they are making a choice between selecting two shoes or dresses, but it's extremely major, because the purpose of life was to be tested, and they were given free choice, free will, and fitra, and so many tools to use it, and their intention was not to use it. And that is the proof of this is that in other verses Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that even if they were given chances, they were given more life or more time or brought back again, they would do the same. So I think that's why they deserve the punishment which fits the crime. But I don't know why. I mean, some activists who not only are on the wrong path and also leading others to wrong path, they should be given more, obviously, because they are misleading others to severe punishment. So maybe that's the reason.
Yeah, thank you. And I think there is another key to this question, and at the end of the verse, where it says they will have none to shield them from God. They will have no protector from God. So that moment of kind of complete transparency, that there is no more excuses, and then there's nowhere to escape. And that clarity is painful, in the sense that we may be numbing ourselves here, even though we make wrong choices and we insist on them. And even though those choices give us pain, we can find ways to numb ourselves so we don't feel the pain and insist on the wrong choice. So even though we're not peaceful, even though we suffer, we numb it to some extent. But at a day where there is no more numbing, everything is crystal clear, then the pain of saying no to God, the pain of shirk becomes more palpable and more stronger. Maybe that's why the suffering in the life to come is even more severe. I mean, there's definitely no breaking point, in the sense that if you choose to connect with Allah, then it's peaceful here, happy here, and even happier there. So there's a continuum, not a break. And similarly with suffering, if we say no to Allah and insist on shirk and insist on idolizing our ego, then it's suffering here, and then that day the suffering even becomes bigger, because there's no way to even numb that suffering as a way of escaping. What do you think, Sister Yamina?
Yeah, I agree with what you said, inshallah, and also the point that Sister Isma brought about here we have the choice, and that day will be the day, as you said, of transparency and clarity. That's what Yawm al-Din is about. Everything will be clear and transparent. And as Isma emphasized, it's the day of accountability. There is we no longer have a choice between right and wrong anymore, because everything is right, because very rarely people will do follow wrong and claim that it is wrong and live their life accordingly. So that accountability will make it there will be nowhere to escape it. It will be facing us, and probably it will start first in our inner world, our consciousness. We will be aware of it, and with that awareness, will come that, can you imagine the feeling of losing, the feeling of realizing that we lived our life in vain, we wasted it, we have never pursued our true life purpose, and there is something in us right now that is aware deep down when we are not following our true life purpose. And it's because we lack integrity and authenticity. And we talked about it when we talked about, when we read the ayah on Ulul Albab. Ulul Albab are those who are authentic and true to themselves. Then can you imagine when here we can, Isra said, numb ourselves, we can also cheat ourselves, lie to ourselves. That's what the Quran uses in some ayat. Lie to ourselves and pretend that we are living our life meaningfully, but there it will be clear, everything will be clear and transparent, and we will know those who did not follow their true life purpose, who did not fulfill their potential as abd, as khalifa, those who did not know their Rabb with his beautiful name. And that's the only way, because that's the only way the human heart is satisfied, to connect back, to keep the covenant with one's Rabb. And that's the only way that we are filled with joy and tranquility. So that will be a great loss. That in itself is devastating. And we will have there will be no opportunity to go back and, as Isma said, like people who said, oh, we wish we go back and do it right this time. And in the Quran it says, no, you were, like every day when we wake up, and when we say every day, every hour, every time we remember, but let's say every day when we wake up, it's the opportunity for a new beginning. I can choose something different. But if I don't, if I keep living in that ghafla, in that mindlessness, then like it will be very very painful to wake up in the hereafter and realize that I lost my one and only opportunity. I mean, it was not my only, there is only one opportunity, but it was given to me all my life, every day, numerous times. Things come, we send signs all the time, but we sometimes, instead of taking them as opportunities for breakthroughs, we complain, or we take them as, we fall into them as breakdowns. We break down in those situations, and they were actually green lights telling us about the meaning of life. Can you imagine when you realize how that you lived your life all in vain with no real purpose, and that all I worked for was transient and ephemeral and impermanent, and I lost my chance for everlastingness, for eternity, for permanence? I think that's that's what it makes it a shaq. It makes it much harder. There's no way to, and there will be no way to escape that reality. So hell is really a place you don't want to be in. It is very painful. It is adab. It is, and it burns. You know, if you realize that for something very silly, you lost something very valuable, how do you feel? It burns inside. That's why fire is the allegorical term, the metaphor used for hell.
So can we say that it would be the spiritual punishment plus the physical will make it double,
Anyone else?
I'm just asking a question that, do you think that we can say that you just described that horrible thing, will that be classed into a spiritual punishment on top of the physical?
I would think so. I would like to clarify why I said what I said at the beginning, which is I didn't ask if you feel that I stopped you, I really didn't mean to do this. And I don't think that you did what I was afraid of. So for me, this not living belief as a dogma is an important thing. And so when I read a Quran verse, then why I'm trying to stay with the verses that are there is to avoid referring to earlier knowledge. So just to avoid this was my point. And I don't think that you actually did this. So you are amazingly close into the text. But so that's what I usually fear, that when I try to understand a verse based on earlier knowledge, then it's, to my understanding, pretty close to the danger of falling into dogma, because it's similar to taking a result from another person's thought process, or a result from my earlier thought process. So that was the reason why I said. Besides this, I can only say that I agree with whatever was said here, that it kind of makes the choice, the importance of the choice clear. So it just says there are consequences, as there are always consequences to every choice, and just be aware of them and then make your choice consciously. I would think that all choices have results in the spiritual and the physical for us.
As to Isma's question, I mean, in this world, they are inseparable. When I am in spiritual pain, I feel it emotionally, and I feel it in my body as well. I feel the pain. So that's how we know. Actually, that's how we know everything. That's how we realize it is painful. And we go back from the physical pain to the emotional, to the underlying spiritual meaning of it. And so there is no separation between the spiritual and the physical, because that's what everything is, signs, ayat, and they have a physical aspect as well, even if it's not corporeal, but it's something that we feel. Like, feelings are not something that we see. And if we live our life under stress for a long time, that stress is going to have physical effects in the body. It will affect our health, for instance, not only spiritually and emotionally, but also physically. We get backaches, we get heart problems, and all kinds of different ailments. And in old medical traditions, you will find that each organ in the body, or each part of the body, is associated with some emotions, like anger and frustration and fear and things like that, and sadness and grief.
So the feeling of doom, right? On the day of judgment.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's the feeling of doom. It's going to be painful in the body as well. I mean, at least this is how we see it in this life. How will it be experienced in the hereafter? We don't know exactly, but we can only imagine it. And that's why in the Quran, when it talks about, when it's describing anything about the life in the hereafter, it always uses parables and allegories, amthila, because it's going to only it's going to tell us about it in ways that we understand, but it doesn't mean that it's exactly the same thing, but it's a sign to it. That's what the ayat are. It's a sign to that. It may not be exactly that, but at least we get an idea about it because it's beyond our imagination, as we know from the Quran and the Hadith. And of course, in the Quran, there is, since no one is sharing, in the Quran, it tells us, when it tells us that this is what happens, this is where this road leads those who break the covenant, this is how it ends. So this is, as we talked about it last time, it is guidance because it's telling me beware of this road. It's like a road that leads to somewhere dangerous. You will find some signs on it, dangerous, and I can't complain, why is this sign so ugly, why is it like this? It's because it has a meaning, it's a sign, it's an ayah. It doesn't want me to be, to harm myself and go down that road. And in other places, and right before, right after, it's talking about the right path, the path that leads to paradise, to Jannah. And we know that in other places, for instance, it says that the believers, and here by believer I mean the believers with true tawheed, without shirk, because remember at the beginning of Surah Ar-Ra'd, we're told that most people do not truly believe. And in other places it said they only believe with shirk. And if you call them to God alone, then ishma'azzat qulubahum, their heart will, instead of expanding, what does it do?
Close.
Yeah, their hearts are closed. Like they feel uncomfortable. They don't feel comfortable. And so the true believer, the genuine believer who believes in God alone, it means that everything, he is aware that everything is a gift from God and everything is an ayah to his Rabb. So an ayah, a means to reconnect, that's the reconnection is keeping the covenant. So they say ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. So when the believer is not someone who says, okay, I'll wait for akhirah. I remember I've heard this a lot, like everything will be in akhirah, like life is unbearable, but we are believer, it will be in akhirah. No, for the believer, it's good here and good in the hereafter. Actually, we know about the goodness of the hereafter because of the witness, the goodness we witness in this world, because of the shahada, as Alia always reminds us, that if I witness that Allah is Razzaq here, that I have no doubt that He is Razzaq all the time in the hereafter included. But if I don't see Him as Razzaq here, if I'm always complaining about the lack of rizq, how can I claim to be a believer in the endless abundance of Razzaqiyah here and in the hereafter? It's only a claim. And when we are reading all this as seeing, to reflect on the guidance of the Quran, how it is guiding us to see the ayat here and now. Otherwise, it will be empty claims. And so the whole passage is from Surah Al-Baqarah, ayah 200 and ayah 201. So it says at the beginning, فَمِنَ النَّاسِ مَنْ يَقُولُ رَبَّنَا آتِنَا فِي الدُّنْيَا وَمَا لَهُ فِي الْآخِرَةِ مِنْ خَلَاقٍ. ومنهم من يقول ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. So there are people who say, oh our Rabb, so they do recognize their Rabb. That a mushrik does not deny God. Grant us good in this world, and such shall not partake in the blessings of the life to come. That's it. They only work and want the blessing of in this world. Those who are aware, the true believer, those who are not mushrik, because those who are not mushrik are always aware of the hereafter dimension, of the eternal dimension, the permanent dimension of everything, because that dimension is the ayah dimension. The ayah, things show, indicates that eternal realm. So it's a reality that we live in here and now. And so when they make dua, they say, Rabbana, O our Rabb, grant us good in this world and good in the life to come. And here is not good in this world and then later. And therefore, because the good in this world is a sign, an ayah, a promise to the goodness in the hereafter. And so we like it because it shows us, it indicates the hereafter, because it indicates the divine names. That's what makes it truly a valuable blessing and goodness, because transient goodness is not truly goodness. And keep us safe from the suffering of fire, because they know that if you lose goodness in the hereafter, then that will be a fire. But the first one are not even aware of that. They're completely immersed in life without realizing that it is constantly changing, passing and flowing.
Dr. Yamina, I think there's another problem. They don't understand the seriousness and urgency of making the choice right now. Like I've heard some Muslims even saying if they don't agree with some things in Quran, they say, oh, I don't mind going to the, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants to throw me in fire, I'm ready.
Well, okay, but how can someone, this is a good, thank you, Isma. It's a good remark. How can someone say something like this? How can someone say, Atina fi dunya hasana, and be happy with it? Because they are, even when they talk about akhirah, they are not really aware of what it means. They have not confirmed it from their heart. They don't have yaqeen, certainty. وهم, the believers, وهم بالآخرة هم يوقنون. They are not موقنين بالآخرة. So akhirah is not something that we just believe in, claim. It's something that is a reality. It's not a reality that I think will happen one day. It's a reality that I live right now. Because most people think that it's too far. Like death is very far. That's why we keep postponing things. But death is here and now. The day, I always say this to myself as well, to remind myself, the day when I die, that day, only those few moments will be my last moments. My whole life would have already been, is already flowing into the hereafter. If you are 30 years now, 30 years have already gone, is already waiting for you. So the moment we leave this world, it will be only that moment that ends then. Our life is already going. So it's an illusion that, oh, death is very far. We are in constantly, not only ourselves, everything around us is all constantly flowing and passing. And remember, in one of our teleconferences, those who are unaware of the ayat are those, it explains there why we become unaware of the ayat. It's because we become unaware of their passing. We bracket it out. We don't want, actually. It's too painful. Why? Because it's painful. Fana and transience is painful when we don't know that it is an ayah to permanence. So it all comes together, mashallah. It all ties into each other.
So it comes down to wal asar.
Sorry?
So it comes down to wal asar, you know. Well, the surah wal asar.
I couldn't understand, sorry.
يعني she means إن الإنسان لفي خسر, human being is
okay. والعصر, sorry. Yeah, okay. I thought it was something in English, sorry.
It comes down to the wal asar, like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, most of the human beings is in loss.
Yes. So it comes back again to believing is a way of living, a way of being in the world, a way of living with the awareness that this world is constantly changing, flowing, and that it is that the impermanence of the world is the aspect, the ayah aspect of everything, the ayah aspect that indicates akhirah, that indicates the permanent world, the alam al-ghayb. And so that's why they cannot ask for good in this world only, because it would be meaningless for the believer. It only makes sense when it comes with both aspects, the aspect that looks to this world and the aspect that looks to the next. That's how everything is anyways. It's only the people of ghafla that don't see the ayat aspect. And that's what the Quran is teaching us again and again, and what this Surah Al-Ra'd has been emphasizing from the beginning. So shall we go to back to our... Yes.
So I just wanted to, I guess, refresh our meaning of covenant with the Creator. So covenant is basically us confirming that we have a Rabb who's taking care of us. Basically, he's operating on us, and is that like the covenant is our confirmation, or I'm not too sure.
Isra?
So to kind of refresh our understanding, remember what we said about covenant. It was in earlier verses 20 and 21, and it talked about how it contrasted people who are true to their bond with God and never break their covenant versus those later on in verse 25. It talked about people who break their bonds with God. So what is that covenant? I think one of the things I remember is that intrinsic connection between human being and his creator. And when we are true to our covenant with him, we consciously recognize that link, that I am sustained, I am created by my sustaining my Rabb, and he's constantly in relation with me, and that means also the gist of Tawheed, because there's nothing other than one God who's my sustainer and creator, and I have this direct link with him. Those are some of the things I remember. I don't know, Sister Yamina, that was...
Yeah, I think that's the gist of it, inshallah.
So that's great. But so there's also a difference. Then bond is something else. Then there's covenant and there's bond. So covenant to me is, like Isra said, is the gist of Tawheed, knowing that I'm created and he's my creator, and the connection between me as a creator.
Well, maybe let's say the bond is the way, the fitrah. So we've been created that way, and the covenant is the way we've been created so that we recognize that bond and we choose to either honor it or not. That will be the covenant. And a very traditional way to explain it is the ayah Alastu bi Rabbikum, and it's called it was in the world, in the realm of Bela, and they said Bela, yes, when Allah, before we are created, the souls are asked, am I not your Rabb? And they all say, yes, you are. But we come here and we forget. So right here and now, it also means that deep down, everyone knows that we're sustained in some ways. We are being sustained. We are being given life here and now. And this life, I have no control over it. And it can be taken from me anytime. So it's not my property. It's someone else's property. However, that consciousness is the covenant. The fact that we are created that way is the bond. We are already bonded. And that's why Abd is sometimes translated as bondsman.
So let me see if I understand this clearly. So when we are born, like our original state, like the fitri state, we are born with a bond, and that gets transformed into covenant?
No, we are already bonded whether we like it or not, and the covenant is a covenant that we made. It's a metaphor for that we recognize our Rabb, whether we acknowledge it or not. It's a metaphor for that.
So it's to me as a human being, I am basically.
You have free will, and you may acknowledge it, or you can cover it up. Kafara.
Okay, so I'm created with a bond with my Creator, and I have I have established a covenant with my Creator where He's given me a certain field to exercise my free will, something of that nature. Is that true reasoning? I mean, correct reasoning?
Yamina,
Yes.
I think you mentioned about the primordial pre-temporal covenant that everything is confirmed, right?
Yes.
That is in Surah Araf, right? 172 or something. So we are talking about that, right? Not other covenants. Just that one, which is basic to all human beings.
Yeah, that's the covenant that is basic to all human beings, which means that there's no human being that says, oh, I could not have recognized the bond with my Creator because I don't have such ability. Everyone has the ability. Metaphorically, in the Quran, it is described as everyone said, yes, you are our Rabb. However, we have been given the ability to either honor that covenant or to forget about it and break it. And when we break it to our we honor it when we honor it, it's to our benefit, and when we break it, it's our loss. And that's why it's been emphasized in Surah Al-Ra'd, not because Allah needs us to keep the covenant, but because we need to keep the covenant for our own safety, for our own fulfillment, for our own joy and fulfillment that we are looking for in this world. That's what everyone is looking for under different names.
So basically, as a human living in this existence right now, I am responsible for reestablishing my covenant every moment. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's kind of like the Shahada as well.
Well, the Shahada is, if we do the Shahada consciously, we would be renewing our covenant. That would be a renewal of the covenant with God. Inshallah. Exactly, yes. That's great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Yamina, this verse 34, I didn't read it before. You know, the answer is in the last part of the verse, which says, and they will have no defender against Allah, right?
Yes.
So that's why here people, they have their own groups. They go back and get support from, their own groups, and so the punishment is not that bad. They share it with others, but
Yeah, thank you. Actually, in this world, Allah is still the protector of everyone because it's not the end. So He gives us again the opportunity to start afresh again and again and again. So He is our protector even when we are breaking the covenant, because He wants to guide us to what is better for us. But then, if we, on the other side, He says, وَمَا لَهُم مِّنَ اللَّهِ مِنْ وَاقٍ. That's it. He says, okay, I've done everything I can for you. You still insist. What can I do? Yeah, thank you, Esma. That was it. Yeah. The answer is in the same. Of course, the answer is in other parts of the Quran as well, but there is the primary answer is right here, or at least the ayah, the indication to why will it be harder? Exactly, and because the end in Arabic, actually, when you read it in Arabic, it makes more sense, because is not only and can be even mean because. I told you it has many meaning. Here, and could be understood as because. So thank you, Isma. So inshallah, we'll start from the very beginning. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسولنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. اللهم أرنا الحق حقا وارزقنا اتباعه وارنا الباطل باطلا وارزقنا اجتنابه آمين والحمد لله رب العالمين. So we stopped at ayah 35. It says مثل الجنة التي وعد المتقون تجري من تحتها الأنهار أكلها دائم وظلها تلك عقبى الذين اتقوا وعقبى الكافرين النار. So it says the parable of the garden promised to those who are conscious of God is that of a garden through which running waters flow. But unlike an earthly garden, its fruit will be everlasting, and so will be its shade. So it's a different garden. This is a parable, of course. Such will be the destiny of those who remain conscious of God, just as the destiny of those who deny the truth will be the fire. So it's like summarizing what we've been reading so far. And it was more about the people of the fire, and now it's saying, oh, but those who are conscious of God, who remain conscious of God, their destiny is very different. It will be the place they end in, the garden, Jannah, which we also call paradise, but primarily it means garden. That paradise, the parable for the paradise, is a garden with flowing, running rivers flowing underneath, and everlasting fruits and shade. And so it's important that we keep in mind that this is a method, which means it is not to be understood literally. There may be fruits, gardens and fruits in paradise. It doesn't mean that there will be the same fruits, because we don't know, because it's a method. It's an allegory, it's a parable, it's a story, a narrative, which is used to reveal a truth that we cannot reach or conceive otherwise. That's something that is beyond our conception. So the Quran uses an allegory to make it closer to our understandings. And usually the Quran always uses very everyday things to make it easy for everyone to relate to. And so when there is an allegory, it means that there is I wouldn't say superficial, but apparent meaning, and a more hidden, more profound meaning and truths, especially relating to akhirah, relating to the divine reality, relating to Isma al-Husna. And when it comes to the hereafter and life in the hereafter, whether it's paradise or hell, the Quran always uses allegories because it's beyond our imagination. And there is a famous hadith that you probably heard of that emphasizes that the impossibility of our imagining paradise. And in this hadith, when it says that it describes paradise as ما لا عين رأت ولا أذن سمعت ولا خطر على قلب بشر, which is, it's a hadith Qudsi, which means related through the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, but the speaker in the hadith is God. So God says, I have prepared for my righteous servants, for my ibadi salihin, things which have never been seen by an eye, nor heard by an ear, nor even imagined by a human being. And the Prophet ﷺ recited an ayah from the Quran, which is فَلَا تَعْلَمُ نَفْسٌ مَا أُخْفِيَ لَهُم مِّن قُرَّةِ أَعْيُنٍ جَزَاءٌ بِمَا كَانُوا يَعْمَلُونَ. And as for such believers, no human being can imagine what blissful delights as yet hidden awaits them in the life to come as a reward for all that they did. So, and here يعملون, for what they did on earth in their earthly life. So the ayah is also saying no human being can imagine the blissful delights that are awaiting them as a reward for all what they've been doing. بما كانوا يعملون, what they've been doing. So here the garden, Jannah, the word Jannah means garden primarily, is an allegory for fire, just as for paradise, just as nar, fire, is an allegory for hell. And Sorry,
I was just wondering, when we mentioned Jannah, so that's paradise here in our existence right now.
In which sense? Like, I couldn't follow.
So basically, if I'm connected with the source, I know I have an absolute creator, so, and then I feel satisfied, so that will be me.
Mm-hmm.
Experiencing paradise. And for example, like in the moments that pass by, basically that would correlate with the eternal life. I mean,
yeah, well, maybe we can say you're experiencing a state of paradise, a hell that is a hell of paradise. But because it is not lasting, in paradise it will be lasting. So that hell, what you experience then, will be your ayah, your confirmation that yes, this is haqq. When you read about paradise, you say yes, this is haqq, I confirm it, sadaqallahu al-azim. Or ashhadu, yes, I know that this is truth. Because it is possible to experience that, as you just mentioned. Does it make sense?
Yes, thank you, Dr. Yamina.
So usually a garden is understood. I mean, when we think of a garden, we think of a place which is not only blissful, but also a refuge. It is sheltered, it is protected, it is a retreat. And that's also a meaning of dhil in Arabic, which the first meaning is shade of dhil, but like Jerry words, dhil here means shade, but in ancient Arabic usage, it also means covering, a shelter, protection, and this is what has been reported, like in Raghib. And it also means a state of ease, of pleasure, of plenty. And in Razi, he says, therefore, it also is an indication to happiness and joy. And so when you say here, when it says dhil, English says usually shade. So eternal fruits and eternal shade. But the word in Arabic means both shade, and because when you have a shade, it's also a shelter, a covering. So figuratively, it was used as a protection. When you are under the protection of someone, you are in his, like as if in his shade. I don't think you can say that in English. I'm not aware of that. And it also means you're in a state of ease, of pleasure, of plenty, of abundance and happiness. So you can see, because the word is used so that it can have a different meaning, because it is a mithal, it is an allegory. And so the garden with the shades, with the greens, with the water, is a place of contemplation, a place of in our state here on earth, we imagine this is a place where you can go into a retreat. It's very blissful, it's very quiet, very protected. You can contemplate, you can pray, and you want it to be eternal. And can you imagining something like this lasting, everlasting? It brings joy just at the imagination of it brings joy to us. And in this garden, there are flowing rivers underneath. And we're told this so many times, over 30 times in the Quran, تجري من تحتها الأنهار, when it comes to Jannah. And these flowing rivers, so this is flowing water. And all these elements of water and shade and fruits and garden, they convey ideas of not only physical refreshment, but it brings with it that emotional ease and spiritual as well. They all come together, spiritual refreshment, spiritual pleasure. Water usually is described as rahma, as life-giving. من الماء كل شيء حي, life-giving, and blessings, ni'mah, rizq is always in Surah Al-Ra'd. Whenever water was mentioned, there was mention of all the rizq that comes with it, and it's purifying as well. And water flows. When it flows continuously. It streams. And in the Quran, both water and revelation are sent down, and so that's why water is the symbol of rahmah. And the rivers are rivers flowing with water. Actually, it's interesting. There is a word in Arabic, which is araba. It's a noun, and it means a river, but with a very strong current, not a slow river. If you have a very, how would you say, a river that is very, flows very fast? Maybe.
Gushing?
Sorry?
Gushing forth?
Yeah, like a gushing river. It's called Araba. One of the names in Arabic is Araba. The same word is used for soul. And so flowing rivers are also understood as a symbol of the soul, or sometimes as a symbol of life, because life is always flowing. And as we know, a river never passes twice through the same place, because it's new water all the time. And so does human life. Every moment, every day is a new experience, a new life, a new opportunity,
a new creation.
And so the flowing river is sometimes understood as reflecting the soul's ability to renew itself by and through, I don't know how would you, maybe through remaining true to its divine source, through keeping the covenant, through renewing the shahada. And of course, the river at the same time, in a real garden, would be feeding the garden. So the garden is always green, always. That's why it's everlasting. So that if it's the river of life, if life is constantly there, it's always feeding it. It will never dry. Nothing will ever dry, as it says here, everlasting fruits. It reminded me of the Alhambra Gardens, if you have ever been there. And actually, they have been built in order to evoke the gardens of paradise. So when you sit there, because you can hear the water flowing underneath, very down, and there is water all over. Even when you're going down the stairs, there on both sides, water going down with you. And it's all just so beautiful, all the foliage or the greenery, everything around. And you feel like you can sit there forever and just pray and reflect and contemplate and forget about the world outside. It's really like a place that mirrors the paradise, subhanAllah.
Also, Dr. Yamina, there's a verse in 35:19 which says in the Quran, the blind and the seeing are not alike, nor are the depths of darkness and the light, nor are the shade and the heat of the sun. So, the shade is different from the heat. This is wala dillu wala kharuf.
And which will be the heat of the sun and the fire of hell. And here it will be cool and shaded and watery. And even the sound of flowing water is pleasant to hear, that there will be something like that. And the fruits also, like how would be fruits? Of course, it's an story that they will be everlasting. There is a hadith that says, "Dunya mazra'atul akhirah," which means that the dunya is the seedbed of the hereafter, which means that it will yield fruits into the hereafter.
Dunya means this world?
Mm-hmm. Yes. And so this is part of it looks to a human being, and parts of it looks to everything going on in the world, all the activities of rububiyyah, all the tasbihat of creatures, of all created beings on earth. They will all yield results in the hereafter. Of course, they will flow into Jannah, into paradise. So the fruits of tasbihat, what will they be? They will be something related to the divine names, because in this world, as Fariha said, we can see the aspect of things that to those divine names, to those tasbihat, glorifications of God. And as far as human life is concerned, human actions are going to be good and bad. So the good ones, the good deeds will bear fruits of paradise, and the bad deeds will bear bitter fruits, fruits of zaqqum in hell. And an example for this have been given, which is like in dream. Like sometimes if we talk about something nice during the day, and at night we see it in the form of delicious food, or the other way around. We say some ugly things, or like if we slander someone or backbite, then we may see ourselves eating something ugly or rotten flesh or something like that. Or if schools are going to open in a week and I'm not ready, the syllabus is still not ready, then I may dream, have a nightmare, seeing myself on the day of the being in the classroom with nothing in my hands, nothing ready or something like that. So the fruits of my life, I see them in my dream in allegorical ways, in completely different ways. And that's why Ustad Said Nursi, he says, in the same way as we are told in this hadith, with good words and ugly words, we say in the sleep of ghafla in this world, in this life. We will eat them in the form of fruits in the world of the hereafter. Either fruits of paradise or fruits of hell. So that's why we have to be very careful. But the fruits in the sleep of ghafla are not going to be to bear fruits in paradise. And the hereafter is the world of the aware, of the awake. We awake to our reality, whatever it is. And he gives an example. He says, for instance, words like Alhamdulillah. It's a blessed word. So all praise be to God. If it is said with belief, with sincerity, meaning it truly, then here, Alhamdulillah is only formed of air. It's just sound. But in the hereafter, you will find it as a fruit of paradise, as an eternal fruit of paradise. If it is uttered with gratitude, with iman billahi wahdihi la sharika lah, which means, for instance, we eat an earthly fruit. I eat the earthly fruit, and before I eat it, I say Bismillah, and I remember Bismillah means, in the name of God, this is a ni'mah. Whoever created this can only be the creator of the whole world. This is saying, is giving shahada, is an ayah to divine power. Someone who controls and has power over the whole world can only make this. It is risk for me when I see it. It is a sign, an ayah to divine razaqiyah. It is a gift to the bestower of blessing. It's a ni'mah from the mun'im. And it is, I remember also, it is a gift of divine mercy. And it is a gift for me, for a human being. It says, Ya ibadiyah, for my ibad, for you as my abd. My Rabb is, how do you say, someone is iltifat, Isra. It's like a special
compliment
from my Rabb. And so what do I say? I feel the joy, I marvel, and it looks like, it's almost like an embodied gift of the divine beings. It's an embodied gift of divine mercy, a gift of ni'mah, a gift of embodied razaqiyah, a gift of the power to create the whole world is It's a sign to all that in here in my hand, and you eat it with awe, and you marvel at it, and you say, Alhamdulillah, you praise your Rabb, and your heart is overflows with gratitude, with joy, with excitement, as being the special guest, the special addressee of our, and our heart is filled with ni'mah. Then we express the spiritual pleasure with Alhamdulillah. All praise is due to God alone, only to Him. Then those words will yield eternal fruits of paradise, because the fruit I hold in my hand, the fruit I am eating, when I'm interacting with it, the taste I am tasting is not only pleasure to my tongue. That pleasure of my tongue is an ayah, the pleasure of my ruh, remembering what a valuable thing I have here. It's an ayah to the divine names, and my tongue becomes also read the divine names, the taste, the taste of the divine names. With all my body and my heart and my ruh, I say Alhamdulillah, and that Alhamdulillah, Ustad al-Nursi rahimahullah says, it will bear eternal fruits in the hereafter. And so all the tasbihat and all the praising and all the blessed words. So I'm carrying on to the next ayah, which is, what is the next? والذين أتيناهم الكتاب يفرحون بما أنزل إليك ومن الأحزاب من ينكر بعضه قل إنما أمرت أن أعبد الله ولا أشرك به إليه أدعو وإليه مآب. Hence they to whom we have given the book rejoice at all that has been sent to you, means you, the Prophet ﷺ. But among the sects there are such that deny some of it. Say, I have only been ordered to worship God, to ascribe no partner to Him. Unto Him do I call, and to Him is my return. Subhanallah. And here it's been said, وَالَّذِينَ أَتَيْنَهُمُ الْكِتَابِ. So those to whom we've sent the book rejoice. And here the book is the book at the beginning. In this case, it is the Quran, this book. يَفْرَحُونَ بِمَا أُنزِلَ إِلَيْكَ. They rejoice in what have been sent to you. So remember at the beginning, it's about those who do not believe in what has been sent to the Prophet ﷺ. So some rejoice because they understand. The more they understand the kitab, the meaning of this guidance, the more they realize that it is offering us, we realize it's offering us guidance in this world and in a way that it's going to yield eternal, everlasting happiness in the life to come, in a way that we find happiness in this world and in the next. So they rejoice in it. But there are some that say, okay, some of it is okay, but some of it is not. And in some tafsirs, they say those are believers in other books or in other creeds, in other religions. But I think it could be, but since the Quran is primarily talking to us Muslims, so I think that this sex could be any group of people, including Muslims. I don't think Muslims can be absolved since they're the primary audience, and since the Quran is when it never talks about people who don't believe in God at all. It's talking about mushrikun, And that we understand now that falling into shirk is very easy. As soon as we fall into ghafla, as we forget, it becomes very easy to fall into shirk. So it could be talking about others, but since it does not specify, doesn't say Ahl Kitab or something like that, then it could be anyone, which means we have to be careful. And the answer to those, as usual, it says to the Prophet ﷺ, قُلْ إِنَّمَا أُمِرْتُ, I have been only ordered. So it means everything we learn from the Quran will boil down to Abudullah, I worship God only, and I do not commit shirk, I do not ascribe other partners with him. Very, very important. Seems very simple, but in practical life it's not that easy. إِلَيْهِ أَدْعُو, I call unto him, and to him is my return. I am aware that to him is my return is not only after death. Right now, every breath comes from him and goes to him. Everything is coming from him and going to him. So that's the gist of the message, is whatever we are doing, everything, it has to go back to A'budullah wa la ushrika bihi. إِلَيْهِ أَدْعُو وَإِلَيْهِ مَآبٍ. And if it doesn't, then there is something wrong in what we understand. The next ayah says, وَكَذَلِكَ أَنزَلْنَاهُ حُكْمًا عَرَبِيًّا وَلَئِنِ اتَّبَعْتَ أَهْوَاءَهُمْ بَعْدَ مَا جَاءَكَ مِنَ الْعِلْمِ مَا لَكَ مِنَ اللَّهِ مِنْ وَلِيٍّ وَلَا وَاقٍ. And that waq was the one that we just saw in 34, and it says, thus then thus we have sent you in Arabic, and Arabic means also clear. In Arabic, Arabic means clear. In Arabic, so حكما عربيا means also حكما بينا, clear ordinance, حكم. And indeed, if you should defer to their desires, after all the divine knowledge that has come to you, you would have in God neither protector nor defender. So he says, we have sent to you, وَكَذَلِكَ أَنزَلْنَاهُ, we have sent it to you. So we have sent this Quran as a hukm, it's a hal. So the being a hukm, being an ordinance, being a guidance, a criteria, is a description, is a, how to say hal, is what the Quran is. Here the Quran is described as hukm. So it is a criteria for living, in this case, a life that bears everlasting fruits, a life and purpose that transcends this transient world. So this ayah is reminding the Prophet ﷺ and us, his followers, to follow the teaching of the Quran as it has been sent as hukm, as ordinance, as decree, as law. So it's not only something you understand and it's good and then you go and do whatever you want. No, it's a law. You live accordingly. And we may have weaknesses, then we make istighfar. But our aim is to surrender. The more we surrender, the more we benefit from it. So there is an action to be taken. And that's why it says you cannot compromise with their desires. There is the people before, and they could be, as Isra always says, that part of me that's always, pulling on the other side. And it's pulling to where? It's saying, oh, this is how everyone says. This is how everyone does, the society, our tradition, our friends, my family, whatever we name it. But actually it's something in me that is pulling me there. Because my friends and family and society, there are things that I don't do like them because I like what I do. And I don't say, I shouldn't be eating this because people don't like it. No, because I like it. So when I use it as an excuse, it's only that, an excuse. I have to go back and check myself. Why do I feel the need to compromise with other people's desire? What is the weakness in me? What is in me that is pulling me towards it? And if we do follow them, we would have spoiled our covenant with God. And here it says, again, like in 34, then وَمَا لَكَ مَا لَكَ مِنَ اللَّهِ مِنْ وَلِيٍّ وَلَا وَاقٍ. And it says, how can you do this after all what we've given you as all that you know now of the truth? How can you still not live according to that truth? Can we know all this about Tawheed and about surrender and still not surrender? And if we do, then it says, then you will have no protector. Since, why? Because He's the only protector. God is the only protector. If I don't follow His way and I follow others' way, which is also what my nafs, my ego wants to do, then I am not following the way of the only protector. Then it's at your own risk. How do they say it in English? Your own risk and other expression.
Discretion?
Sorry?
Discretion?
Anyway, maybe it's not in English, sorry. Maybe it's like at our own risk that we will follow anything else other than the path that God had shown us clearly in this hukm. Because this Quran is also a hukm. It's also a decree. It's an ordinance. It's not just telling you nice things about life and how it is lived. It is supposed, this is how you live. This is a reality. You either follow the reality or you live in your own illusion. And in that illusory world, there is no protection.
And what was the meaning of walk, you said? Walk in 34 and 37? Wow, are you sure?
In 34, some have translated it as shield, but it also means protector. Protector, defender. You will have neither a wali as a defender, a friend, nor a waq, someone who and muttaqi comes from that as well, the one who is aware and protects themselves by being God conscious. And the answer is, we are told in the previous ayah, is قُلْ إِنَّمَا أُمِرْتُ أَنْ أَعْبُدَ اللَّهَ وَلَا أُشْرِكُ بِهِ إِلَيْهِ أَدْعُو إِلَيْهِ مَآبٍ. So when we see something that is something that is pulling us, that we're inclined to, that we know is not in the path of God, then we will remind ourselves, we need to remember and confirm again, قُلْ إِنَّمَا أُمِرْتُ أَنْ أَعْبُدَ اللَّهَ وَلَا أُشْرِكُ بِهِ إِلَيْهِ أَدْعُو وَإِلَيْهِ مَآبٍ. I have only been ordered to worship God and to ascribe no partner to Him. Unto Him do I call, and to Him is my return. Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. Isn't that nice? Like the formula is so concise, so nice. Not only A'bud Allah, but A'bud Allah wala ushriku. Therefore, if I worship God alone, therefore I will not commit shirk. So this is this is our prayer, inshallah. And we pray that Allah will help us in this path. And of course, if I am consciously making this prayer and asking God to make it easy for me, then I'm less and less likely to be pulled in other directions away from Sirat al-Mustaqim, from the right path, inshallah. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين الحمد لله. So the assignment I would suggest, inshallah, for next week is to read ayat 38 from 43 in Surah Al-Ra'd and reflect on their meaning, especially in the context of what we've learned so far from this Surah Yusuf alayhi salam. In Surah Yusuf, it was a story of ihsan, and it is why it is harder, because here it is coming back to me and telling me how to, showing me the way of how to be in the world. So I will also, inshallah, like Prophet Yusuf alayhi salam, like all the prophets, follow their path of ihsan and live with. It's not easy to surrender fully, but inshallah, we intend to surrender fully, inshallah, and it will get easier and easier. Like everything else, when you do it constantly and consistently, Allah makes it easy, inshallah. Jazakumullah khair. Thank you.
Jazakumullah khair. Thank you very much, Dr. Yamina. And thank you everyone for joining us tonight. And inshallah, join us next week for our last study circle of the year. In the following weeks, we won't have any more. So the last meeting of the year we'll have next Thursday at 8:30 p.m. and we'll continue with Surah Ra'd. So may Allah make us all surrender to Him fully, inshallah. And have a beautiful week, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you.